I'm no Egyptologist or archaeologist, but I do love the collection that we have here at World Museum. So I'll try and answer any questions you've got.
Sure.
Okay, so welcome to the gallery. The gallery was redeveloped in 2017, so it's been reopened. We were able to break into spaces that have not been used since before the war. So there's a lot of damaged objects on display. This is the first time a lot of them have been brought back out, because we've had the space to bring them out and they've been conserved as well. So it's a really, really beautiful gallery, and we can boast that we are one of the, I'll say the best outside of London. We've got the most mummies on display outside of the British Museum. We've got 10 on display in our mummy room, and we've not been able to bring that many out for years. We've got 18 about in our collection. Probably got more because I think there's a few limbs and feet and hands and stuff around too. But we've got 18 full mummies. A lot of those were destroyed in the Blitz in the 1940s. So here at World Museum, they are our next Egyptologist archaeologists. So we want to encourage that in the youngsters. So this is a really good starting point to see where these places are. But again, for us, we can see where some of the burials have taken place. So you'll see objects from Namibia. So maybe you didn't know where Namibia is. You can come back here and see whereabouts on the map of Egypt it is. It's marked off places like the Great Pyramids up at the top. It shows you where the Rosetta. The timeline here spans 5,000 years of history from the ancient Egyptians, from very early settlers on the Nile to the beginning to the beginning of the Roman Empire, which is right down the far end. Egyptologists usually study a small phase of the period because it's so vast. You couldn't remember all of the different dynasties. It's such a vast thing. But every square along this timeline is about 500 years. So you can look at objects from about 500 years. One of the facts that fascinates me is if you look down towards the bottom, you think of Cleopatra. Well, she's closer to us than she is to the builders of the pyramids. And you're thinking, wow, that's quite mind-blowing, really. So we're going to walk along the Nile, and then we're going to start with our first object, which is in the glass case. I've got to say to you now that you're in an Egyptian gallery, you will see human remains. If anyone feels uncomfortable, please just leave, or let me know. So the first one we're going to look at is just up here. Oh, sorry. Tributes to the gods. This is the first time it's been on display for 100 years. There's only 3 of them in existence that we know of. One in the Ashmolean, one here, and one over in America. And a lot of these came to our collection through excavation digs that usually were rescue digs. The pit burial that's just on this side was a rescue excavation. It's from Namibia down at the bottom, and it is now under Lake Nessa. So it was going to be flooded.
Oh, when they flooded it, right.
So the excavation happened to remove things. Yeah. So the body here is a female. 2 things, isn't it, that you shake together? Yeah. We've only got one bit, the other one's in Cairo.
Wow.
So things were split up in that case, because obviously they kept one half that may have looked more beautiful. Look at the objects here. Like every single object was destroyed in some way. They've been preserved and been pieced back together. There were so many objects. I think we lost like 3,000 objects. We had to do an SOS as well at one. Here we've got the girdle of Ramesses III. It is a star item in our collection. It is tightly controlled now because we've got low lighting on it. We've got temperature controls within the case. It won't damage it to have the light on for a period of time, but it's just to help reduce any damage to the garment. Sekhmet, goddess of war and destruction. She's fearsome. She was in mythology for turning the River Nile red with the blood of the enemies of Egypt. She's very fierce. She's got the face of a lion, the body of a human. Here we've got a selection of female mummies, and the hand I mentioned before is just there. This is the mummified hand that is now the high priestess. It was a really interesting hand because when the curators were deciding how to display it, they were thinking, well, should we display it on the hand, or should we just take the jewellery off because the jewellery is so nice and display it on stands? and they decided to leave it as it is, and it's a good job because it is one of the most asked about objects. So this mummy here is Paddy Amun. Paddy Amun means he who Amun gave, so he's been given a name from the gods, so that's why it's probably a popular name. He was the sailor of the bark of Amun, so his job would have been to sail religious artefacts up and down the River Nile on special religious occasions. They found this spatula within the mummy's head. This caused excitement for around about 5 seconds, I think. The Egyptians believed that you didn't need your brain. It was useless, so they'd scoop it out with some scoop and discard it either up your nose, through your ear, whatever, just to get it out so you didn't rot. They believed that all love and thought was from the heart. So the heart was preserved. Obviously you'd need that for the weighing of the heart ceremony, which we'll look at in a minute. The brain was just discarded. So for all of 5 minutes they thought they found an ancient Egyptian scoop within the... It wasn't.
Small, isn't it?
Breeding crocodiles to be sacrificed. So they'd have baby crocodiles and they'd like sacrifice them, mummify them and offer them to Sobek for protection. Here they couldn't always get the larger crocodiles, obviously, so they get the baby crocodiles and they put 2 or 3 in them and then make it look like it, so the outer wrappings. So if you look at this, I'll stand up this end so you can see it. This is a loose leaf collection of spells, incantations and instructions. The dead person would have commissioned this within life, obviously, so you'd have this ready for when you were dead. It is absolutely fantastic. This is like 4 meters long, and this is the first time, 2017 was the first time we were able to get this full script out. We have had it on display before, but only in sections. This came over in 1906. Again, you had to be quite rich because you'd have to pay a scribe to write it, and you'd probably be buried in a tomb and be mummified as well. So the most important part is this part here, and it's the judgment. So it's when your heart is being weighed against the feather. So this is belonging to a man called Jidor, and he has been brought into the Hall of Two Truths in this section. Once he's in the Hall of Two Truths, there are 42 assessors of the dead who will ask him to make his negative confession. So he's got to, each one of them will ask him something and he has to say he hasn't done it, really. Some of the things were, like he hasn't killed an animal. So he probably might have done that, but he had to make sure that his heart was in balance. He had to be a good man at heart.